Expressionism focuses more on expressing emotion rather than painting reality. Artists uses bold colors, distorted figures, and dramatic brushstrokes to show inner feelings such as fear, sadness, or anxiety. Instead of showing what the world looks like, they showed what it feels like. Ernst Ludwig Kirchner's Street Berlin is a good example, capturing the tension and unease of modern city life through sharp lines and intense colors.
Is an expressionistic painting made out of oil, tempera, and pastel on cardboard. It was painted on 1893 with a size of 91 by 73.5 centimeters. The artist's name is Edvard Munch, and the painting is now located on two different museums, one in the National Museum of Norway and the second in the Munch. This painting was based on Edvard Munch's emotion. He was one of the pioneers that influenced the Expressionist movement. His paintings are greatly influenced by his expressions, especially during the time when he lost a loved one due to tuberculosis. Edvard Munch's inspiration for his art is based on his stroll on a bridge over Oslofjord. The artist claims that while he was walking, he felt as if there were screams echoing from nature. He wanted to capture that feeling of anxiety and distress. The fiery red and orange sky is speculated to be inspired by the Krakatoa volcanic eruption, which happened in 1883, where it left beautiful use of color in the skies of Europe. Munch created 5 versions of the painting, but the 2 known are displayed in Norway. One in the National Museum of Norway, and the second one is in the Munch. The painting was stolen twice, one in 1994 and the second was in 2004. So overall, the scream is a painting that represents fear, anxiety, and anguish. It can even be used in governmental considerations to warn the future generations about hazardous sites.
The Yellow Cow by Franz Marc. Franz Marc painted the Yellow Cow in 1911, right after he married Maria Frank, and it was meant to celebrate their union. Franz Marc gave special colors meaning. For him, yellow symbolized joy and femininity, while blue stood for spirituality and masculinity. By painting a large yellow cow with blue spots, he was showing the harmony of both qualities together. The cow itself dominates the scene, leaping joyfully over rocks in the foreground. In the background, a group of red cow blends into the red hills, linking the animals closely to their environment. Marc's repetition of colors and shapes ties everything together, creating a sense of balance and energy. More than just a farm animal, the yellow cow becomes a symbol of safety, happiness, and harmony in life. For Franz Marc, this painting reflected the love and security he felt in his marriage, and it showed how he used color to express the deep emotions instead of just copying nature. Blue Horses by Franz Marc. In 1911, Franz Marc painted Blue Horses, one of his most famous works. It shows 3 bright blue horses standing too close together in front of red rolling hills. The curved shape of the horses are repeated in the hills behind them, creating unity between the animals and the land. Franz Marc didn't use colors just for decoration. He believed that each color carried meaning. For him, blue stood for spirituality and peace, yellow represented feminine joy, and red symbolized violence. By painting the horses blue, he showed them as spiritual, pure, and calm beings. The soft outlines and flowing curves give the painting a gentle rhythm, as if the horses and the land are breathing together. Franz Marc believed that animals were closer to nature and innocence than people were. Through his art, he invited viewers to see them as symbols of harmony and balance. Again, Blue Horses is not only about animals, but the possibility of a more peaceful world.
The Berlin street scene, or Berliner Straßenszene, is an expressionist oil painting by Ernst Ludwig Kirchner. Created between 1913 and 1914, measuring 121 by 95 centimeters, it is now located in the Neue Gallery in New York City. The painting captures Berlin's busy street during the 1910s, just before World War I. Kirchner described the city as the symphony of the great city, and he was inspired by its energy and modernity, which is expressed through bold brushstrokes and dynamic composition. The figures in the painting are personally significant. The two men are thought to represent Kirchner and a fellow artist named Otto Müller, while the two women, depicted as prostitutes, were modeled by his partner Erna and her sister Gerda. By using people he knew, Kirchner added depth to the work while reflecting both the vibrancy and tension of Berlin's urban life. This expressionist painting by Ernst Ludwig Kirchner was created in 1909 using oil on canvas. It measures 76 by 60 centimeters and is currently located in Stockholm. The subject is a young woman named Marcella, shown in a yellow and green dress while sitting on a couch with a cat. Marcella, along with her sister Francie, often modeled for Kirchner and other members of the Die Bruch group. The work is presented from a high side angle, emphasizing Marcella's detached and gloomy state. Through his brushstrokes and muted color palette, Kirchner conveys a strong sense of melancholy, not only in the figure herself, but also in the overall mood of the painting.
Dadaism appeared during World War I as a reaction to violence and destruction of the time. Dada artists rejected tradition and reason, instead using nonsense, humor, and shock to question society. They made collages, performances, and even used ordinary objects as art. Marcel Duchamp's fountain, a urinal turned into artwork, is one of the best-known examples showing that anything could be called art.
One of the most iconic examples of Dadaism is Gift by Man Ray, created in 1921. This piece was made from an ordinary flat iron that has been transformed by gluing a row of sharp tacks to its bottom. It measures approximately 13 by 33 by 8 centimeters and is currently found in various collections, often displayed in Dada and modern art museums. By altering this simple domestic tool, Man Ray rendered it both absurd and unusable, stripping it of its practical purpose. Gift exemplifies the Dada spirit of rebellion, as it marks the traditional boundaries between useful objects and works of art. More than just a joke, it forces viewers to reconsider how meaning is created in art and whether functionality should define value. Another work by Man Ray produced in 1920 that demonstrates the Dadaist vision is the Enigma of Isidore Ducasse. This small sculpture, measuring all sides by 16.5 centimeters, is currently housed at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. It consists of a sewing machine concealed under cloth, tied securely with thread, and combined with other materials such as glass, wood, and metal. The title pays tribute to Isidore Ducasse, also known as Comte de Lautréamont, a poet whose real imagery deeply inspired the Dadaists. The concealed sewing machine gives the artwork an air of mystery and absurdity, reflecting the Dadaist fascination with chance, concealment, and unexpected combinations. Rather than presenting the object directly, Man Ray invites viewers to engage with curiosity and imagination, highlighting how absence and uncertainty can be just as powerful as visibility of art. One of the most famous works of Dadaism created in 1917 is Fountain by Marcel Duchamp. This piece, measuring about 60 by 48 by 50 centimeters, is a porcelain urinal, and it is now displayed at the Tate Modern in London. At first glance, it appears ordinary, but its significance lies in Duchamp's bold idea that even a manufactured object can be art if placed in the right context. By presenting Fountain as a ready-made, Duchamp challenged traditional notions of originality, beauty, and artistic skill, making it one of the most influential and provocative works of the 20th century.
Cubism began in the early 1900s with Pablo Picasso and George Braque. It has two phases: analytical cubism, which broke objects into small geometric shapes and muted colors to show many angles at once, and synthetic cubism, which uses simpler shapes, broader colors, and even materials like newspaper. Now, a good example of these include Rock's violin's candlestick and Picasso's still life.
Now let's go to the artworks made by Human Greece. I'm going to introduce two of his artworks as well. The first one is Harley Quinn with a guitar. This artwork is painted on wood panel by oil. So the year made was on 1917. The size of this artwork is 100.3 centimeters by 65.1 centimeters. The current location of this artwork is at Metropolitan Museum of Art at New York. Okay, so now let's go to the artworks made by Pablo Picasso. So I'm going to introduce his two artworks, but let's go to the first one. The first one is Guernica. The Guernica is painted on canvas by oil. It was made on the year 1937. The size of this artwork is 349.3 centimeters by 776.5 centimeters. So the location of this artwork is at Museo Reina Sofia at Madrid, Spain. Okay, so now let's go to the description of this artwork. So the Guernica is a famous painting by Pablo Picasso that shows how awful war can be. It is a huge black and white and blue-gray picture that expresses the tragedies and sufferings of innocent civilians during the bombing of the town of Guernica in Spain during the Spanish Civil War. So today, it is known as one of the most powerful anti-war statements ever made. Well, trivia. Did you know the reason why he painted Guernica is to protest against the violence and destruction of war? He wanted people to see how war hurts innocent people.
Good day everyone, today I'll be presenting about George Braque, one of the most important figures in the 20th century art. Now Braque was a French painter who, along with Pablo Picasso, played a key role in the development of modern art. And the first artwork I'll be talking about today is Man with a Guitar. Now this piece was created in 1911 using oil on canvas. It measures 116.8 by 81 centimeters and is currently housed in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. The painting is a strong example of analytical cubism, where Braque broke down the subject into geometric shapes and muted tones to highlight structure rather than detail. A fun fact about this work is that viewers at the time found it almost unrecognizable as a guitar for a man, but that was exactly Braque's point: to focus on form and perspective rather than realistic representation of the artwork. Now the next artwork is Houses at Elistad. Painted in 1908, this artwork was also done in oil on canvas and measures about 73 by 60 centimeters. It is now kept in the Quartz Museum in Bern, Switzerland. And unlike Man with a Guitar, this painting still has recognizable elements, but the simplified shapes and flattened perspective show Braque moving toward cubism. Now a little trivia about this work: when critic Louis Basel saw it, he remarked that Braque had reduced everything into cubes. And that's actually how the term Cubism was born. Now, both of these artworks demonstrate Braque's evolving style, from simplified landscapes to fully developed cubes. They also highlight how he valued structure and geometry over traditional realism. Surrealism started in the 1920s, influenced by Freud's ideas about dreams and the unconscious mind. Surrealist artists often painted realistic objects in unrealistic ways, creating strange, dreamlike scenes that challenge logic. They wanted to unlock imagination beyond reason. A famous example of this is Salvador Dali's The Persistence of Memory, where melting clocks show the fluid nature.
Here we have Salvador Dali's most iconic piece, The Persistence of Memory. Painted back in 1931, this oil on canvas is only 24 by 33 centimeters, but its imagery is unforgettable. The melting clock symbolizes the fluidity of time as it loses all its meaning in the dream world. Dali even joked that they look like a melting camembert cheese. At the center lies a strange organic figure, often seen as a distorted self-portrait, fading into the barren landscape of Catalonia. One clock remains rigid, but covered in ants, suggesting decay and the inescapable persistence of time. Today, this masterpiece is displayed in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, continuing to fascinate viewers with its surreal mix of horror, decay, and dream logic. This artwork, painted in 1929, shows Dali at his most personal. The Great Masturbator is a large oil on canvas inspired by a rock formation in his home region in Catalonia. The distorted face dominates the painting with a grasshopper and swarming ants, symbols of decay and Dali's own fears. From the figure emerges a woman, widely believed to be Gala, Dali's muse and lifelong partner. She represents both desire and anxiety, reflecting Dali's complex relationship with sexuality. The barren landscape makes the scene even more unsettling. Dali kept this painting in his personal collection for much of his life, which shows just how deeply connected he was to it. And today, it is currently housed in the Museo Reina Sofia in Madrid. Painted in 1964, The Son of Man is one of Rene Magritte's most recognizable works. At first glance, it's a simple image, a man with a bowler hat with his face obscured by a floating green apple. But there's so much more beneath the surface. Magritte used himself as the model, making this a disguised self-portrait. He described the apple as both hiding and revealing the face, a metaphor for the tension between what is visible and what remains hidden. The title, Son of Man, suggests religious undertones, but Magritte resisted literal interpretations. This painting remains in a private collection, rarely exhibited, which only adds up to its mystery and lasting intrigue.
Collage arranged according to the laws of chance. This artwork was made by Jean or Hans Arp in 1916 to 1917. The story behind it is unusual. Hans Arp got frustrated with the drawing, tore it up, and let the scraps fall into the floor. Later, he noticed how the pieces form an interesting pattern by accident. He realized that chance had created something he could not plan himself. From then on, he made collages where random placement was part of the process. Sometimes, he even used a paper cutter instead of tearing to pieces by hand, so his control was even less. This collage is important because it is one of the first artworks to use chance as a method for art. For Arp, randomness and chaos were not mistakes, they were creative forces.